Hello Aries, and welcome to your September monthly horoscope for the Sun or the Ascendant. As ever, I'm going to share with you the major themes to look out for. But please stay with me. I will then dive deep to give you in forensic detail all the key influences particularly relevant to your sign. This month begins with the Sun in House 6, or the sign of Virgo. Very much about practicalities. We're all having to adjust to a very fast changing world, and any abilities that you can in any way repurpose in a fresh and innovative and up-to-date way is going to help you to deal with those overall changes we're all experiencing. But making sure that the physical plane is working is not the only part of this month's trick, because Neptune in your 12th house is also influencing your psychological, emotional and spiritual situation very strongly. And I need to share with you how you can negotiate the challenge that comes from the Sun's opposition to Neptune, but also later in the month when Mercury moves backwards into the sign of Virgo in its retrograde. It also is affected profoundly by Neptune. Now, relationships are often an area that many of us are interested in, whether it's in our friendships, with work colleagues, or in a more personal dimension. And Mercury is in shadow as this month begins. But I've got a surprise bit of information to share with you for the first 10 days, which gives you, despite this, an enormous opportunity. Also, we have the autumnal equinox on the 23rd, and just as that happens, there is a powerful conjunction between the Sun and Mercury when they come into Cazimi, which can be an opportunity for you. So lots to share with you, Aries. If you are wanting to embrace more serious astrology and rise above this Zodiac forecast, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can give you a roadmap that can guide you for the rest of your life, help you to identify opportunities, but also see patterns that may have made at times your life more challenging, and learn how to work around these. But in my special offer of 30% off, if you order this year, I'll give you your year 2023 forecast within this package, but also the rest of 2022 free. Please see the link below. And finally, if you are new to my channel, I'd be honoured if you would subscribe. If you've already done so, thank you so much for your support. But if not, please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. Thank you. So Aries, as you make your way into September, yes, the Sun's asking you to be attentive to details. Make sure that things are working efficiently, that you're thinking about your physical welfare in terms of exercise and your diet and nutrition. Those are all natural things to grapple with when the Sun makes its passage through the sign of Virgo. But as I mentioned in my introduction, Mercury, the planet of communication, is in your opposite sign. Ordinarily very good for being a bit more detached about what other people's ideas and thoughts are, and just listening attentively. But it is in shadow, so there could be some snags. The fortunate thing is, in the first 10 days, the surprise news I wanted to share with you is that Mars, your ruler, now in the sign of Gemini, where it will be through to March the 25th next year, is in a sparkling alliance with Mercury. So you could have a conversation in the first 10 days of this month which really emboldens you. It may be a situation where you're able to articulate your ideas in a very skillful way, which sees you get beyond the shadow period of Mercury's pre-retrograde phase. Now, of course, you also we have Venus as a relating planet as well, and it's in your sister fire sign of Leo for the first 5 days. So if you are looking to bring some romantic magic to your world, those 2 influences can definitely be helpful. But it's also true to say that the Sun from the 10th to the 15th is in a quincunx with Saturn. Now, Saturn's the planet of structure, And it's for you in your sector of friendship, but also longer term plans. If you have found that some friendships have made way in your situation over the last couple of years, it really wouldn't be a surprise. But also some of your longer term plans may have been altering. Things that you thought were really important to you, not necessarily in terms of tangible goals, more to do with your ideals. Maybe there has been some disappointment with some situations, but you're being asked to rethink some parts of your existence, and perhaps doing a job which gives you more personal satisfaction for how you help others or people in general could be a way that you can make that quincunx work for you. In fact, in week 2, the Sun forges a really important link with Uranus. Because they're both in earth signs, this could be a good time to try to squeeze a little bit more out of your assets. We all know that there's been a huge rise in the cost of living, and our ability to try to be flexible and try to find ways to minimize our costs but maximize our income is important. So even if you don't see yourself as a particularly entrepreneurial person, if you can think about different skills or talents or experiences that you've had in the past and how you could redeploy them in a fresh way, this is a great time to go for it. Now, Mercury does go retrograde on the 10th. The potential for crosswires in relationships is obviously increased, unfortunately. But the full moon, which occurs on the 10th, is forging a link in a positive way with Uranus. I think one of the things to do around relationships particularly is not fall into the trap, which is very easily done, especially once Venus moves into Virgo on the 5th, of where it's actually not at its best. It's known as being in its full in the sign of Virgo, so F-A-L-L. So this is an area where we can start to see relationships a little bit more in a picky way. So with the Sun, the position of Venus from the 5th and the ruler of Virgo in retrograde from the 10th, and obviously that's in your sector of relating, it would be possible to be a little bit more focused on the empty side of that glass rather than the half full side of it. So just if you find yourself really finding a fault in someone's approach or attitude going round and round your mind, try to just step back from that and see the big picture. I think that really will be helpful to you. In week 3, the Sun does go opposite Neptune, and this could be quite a draining influence. It's going to be important to look after your physical vitality during this time. Even if you're someone who wants to be very giving and helpful to others, there's always a point where we need to just make sure that we trim back to make sure we're not over giving. We can't pour from an empty vessel, so just be aware of that. But this is the part of the month where you really need to balance that more practical and everyday part of your situation with how things feel, the more sensory side of life. And if you do find that your energy is dropping a little bit, or you find that at work particularly you're more sensitive to other people's viewpoints and perhaps even critiques, it wouldn't really be a surprise. However, Venus is forging a very positive link to Uranus from the 17th to the 22nd. Now, Venus in the sign of Virgo can help you to just be more realistic in your approach to relationships, and maybe because Venus also governs money, this can be a time when you can repurpose something in a way, or free up some time or free up some money in a way which is very helpful to you, because from the 16th to the 22nd, the chance to evolve in a major way in your situation, particularly around your work, is definitely presented. If you are somebody who would like to change your role, this can definitely be an important month. But of course, the 23rd sees the autumnal equinox. We enter the 3rd cardinal quadrant of the year, so a 13-year period, which is very, very important for all of our relationships. But just on that day, the Sun and Mercury are right side by side, so we get that cazimi. But ironically, later that day, Mercury then reverses into the sign of Virgo. So what I think that this is basically saying is that Mercury is returning home. It governs the sign of Virgo. So a relationship matter could get a bit more brittle. But I think the autumnal equinox is giving you a lot of encouragement to think about how you can be more constructive around your relationships in the following 13 weeks. It's just that on the 24th, Venus is in opposition with Neptune. So you can see that Neptune's going to be quite a big player this month, and it is in the part of your scope to do with your anxieties. So your anxieties can affect the physical reality of your situation. But the 25th sees a wonderful new moon in the sign of Libra, and it's in direct opposition with the retreating, retrograding Jupiter in your sign. Now, despite the fact that Jupiter's retrograde obviously isn't as good as it being free range, I think this is actually a really good new moon for you. And I think even if this month does flush out some imperfections or even weak relationships, or you become more aware of the people who aren't quite as sincere as you would like, or don't really share your values, I think this can be a new beginning for you, a time when you really draw a line in the celestial sand and start again around some key relationships or interactions. And this is emphasized furthermore because on the 29th, Venus, the planet of relating, moves home to the sign of Libra. So that's also very important. The last week also sees Mercury in a very productive link with Pluto. So as much as one job or approach or a structural approach to your everyday world can make way for something new, your powers of regeneration and ability to embrace new approaches is definitely enhanced by the end of this month. And I think that particular aspect will bring clarity after the confusion that Neptune can bring. But I think when it comes to finance, for us all, it is going to be important to be realistic. But in your case, I really wouldn't mix business with pleasure with Saturn in that right angle with Uranus, because however much you're good-natured and approach things in a fair-minded way, I think the potential for crosswires and misunderstandings and niggly little tensions is actually quite high. So by the end of the month, I think after some potentially highlights, but also some disappointments, but if you just keep trying to balance yourself in a holistic way between where you need to be practical, where you need to work hard, where you need to earn a living, with what you need from the situation in terms of your emotional dimension, keep that in balance. And by the end of this month, opportunities are really going to start to come through in a much more obvious way. It's been a real pleasure being with you. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care and goodbye for now.